you're listening to It Came From the Radio. You know, this is Jay Feldy, Jennifer Lee Feldman, and Dr. Feldy. I'm here with Lawrence C. Connolly and his brother, Christopher Connolly, today. Very talented. I've been investigating Lawrence for the last hour and a half, listening to his interviews and his dark musings. Now, Lawrence C. Connolly's work spans dark fantasy, psychological horror, near future sci fi with a cinematic flair. His latest story, Minutemen, Execute and Run, follows wounded warriors who receive biotech enhancements, granting them 60 seconds of superhuman power before extreme pain sets in. So it's currently being developed as a feature film with his brother, who's here with us, Christopher. And they're both right here. So maybe I'll let them speak. Hi.
Hello. Nice to see you. Nice to meet
Nice to
you.
be with you. Nice to
Nice
be
to
with
see you
you.
too, guys. So thanks for being here. I'm going to jump right in. I always do. So, Sir Lawrence Connolly, if you, like the characters you wrote, received biotech enhancements granting you 60 seconds of supernatural power, what would you do with this power?
All right. Now, before I answer that question, we should clarify something that happens to the Minutemen characters in the Minutemen book. You see, they have these incredible powers for 60 seconds, but they pay for those because after they use them, they are completely depleted. They are worse off than they were before they used their power. So it's not only a matter of what power I want, but when and how I would want to use it and how badly I would want it because I know I would have to pay for it afterward.
Right.
But okay, but straight answer that because you asked a
Right.
straight question, so I'll give you the straight answer. And that would be, I think that what I would like to do is be able to sit down at the keyboard with a writing project in mind, and my superpower would be no doubts. No doubts, no second guessing. I
Oh,
know exactly what I want to do. I don't type one word and then doubt it, but I go full speed ahead for 60 seconds and I write the greatest movie pitch ever. And then when I'm done, I'm spent. I can't write a darn thing for the next day, but it doesn't matter because
mhm.
guess what? I've got the killer pitch for a movie. And the next day, when I'm back to normal and I'm rested, I'm going to go out into the world with my regular power and I'm going to pitch this sucker and it's going to be a film in 6 months. So that's my strategy. If I had a superpower, that's what it would be, and that's how I'd use it.
Hi. So, I'm going to go off the question list because, as you may or may not know, some listeners know, I specialize in Dianetics and Scientology. So, we're going to do a deep dive into why you have doubts. Why do you think you have doubts? No, I'm just kidding about all the Scientology part. But no, really, a lot of writers, and I think that the most intelligent people do have doubts, and they don't think they know everything. They don't think they can do everything because they're aware of all of the stuff that they don't know. So, just quick question: what do you think gives you some doubts?
What do I think gives me doubts, or is that
Yeah, it makes
is
you
that
doubt
Chris's
yourself.
about
Anybody,
myself?
actually,
Yeah,
anyone can
I
answer
think what it
this.
is
Yeah.
the more you know, the more
Hmm.
you learn. So, I've
Hmm.
been doing this a long time. And the more you learn about something, the more you know to question. And the more you
Yes.
have to second guess. The editor in your head gets louder and louder. And so it becomes more difficult to turn that
Mm.
off. And so it's a double edged sword. You spend your life learning how to do something, and then you get to the point where you can really do it. You know just about everything you need to know in order to craft a good story. But with that comes a certain degree of second guessing. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't have that superpower. I can't turn that off, but I think I do a fair job of, lowering the volume on it so that I can get work done. And
Mhm.
then that voice becomes useful later on when I'm editing. And then I bring that voice up to full volume. And then it really helps a lot at that point. But yeah, the doubt I think comes from knowing stuff, knowing what you're doing. And when you're young, you can write full speed ahead. You
Mm.
don't know anything, and so everything you write is brilliant.
Mm.
But as you
Mm.
get older, you begin to doubt, and it's a good thing, but it's a double-edged sword.
I don't know. I was born an old woman. I always had doubts. I always knew there was a world out there that I didn't know. So that's just how I feel. But, maybe I was born 500 years old. But that's another story for another day. So now I do special effects makeup, and my dad is a dentist, and he assists me because he has Dremels and saws and all these things that I don't have. So I work with my dad. Now, you work together. And what's it like working with family? So, Christopher, we haven't heard from you. Um, I don't have a sibling. So, what's it like having a sibling? What's it like working together with family?
No, this is great. I think we both respect each other. I think we know each other. It's kind of good when you have, the connection of, I mean, Larry does what he does, I do what I do, but we come together and complement each other.
Simple, simple answer. Okay,
Yeah.
really, yeah. Okay, so on a crazy day, that's a very simple answer, straightforward. You have anything to add to that, Lawrence?
Yeah, this idea for the novel that we have coming out in October, this idea came from Chris, and he worked on it for a while before he shared it with me. And I had heard that he was working on something, but I didn't know what it was. My brothers actually knew more about it than I did. And then one day I was doing a panel at a science fiction convention, and Chris dropped by and he said, "Come on, let's go get some coffee. I've got something to show you." We went up the street to a little bistro, and he spread out these papers all over the bistro table. And now Chris is an artist. I'm primarily a writer. Chris is also a writer, but he's also a graphic artist. And so what Chris had been doing, well, he was developing this idea, was he was creating sketches for characters and dramatic events that would sell this story of a group of commandos who had superpowers for 60 seconds at a pop. And as I looked at these things on the bistro table, I realized we had something here. I realized that this was something I wanted to write. And so what I did is I gathered up all those papers and I took Chris's ideas, and we talked a little bit longer after that, and we laid out all the beats for the story, or the things that we thought we would like to have in the story.
Mhm.
And then I just took that and I worked on it for a while. I'm a very solitary writer. I had all this stuff that Chris had already created. He had created it on his own, and then I went off on my own and
Mm-hmm.
I wrote. Whoops, sorry, I bumped the mic there. I wrote, but what I wrote at that point wasn't the novel. At that point, what I wrote was a screenplay because we both agreed that this would make a terrific screenplay. And shortly after I finished it, I had a film opening in LA. It was Nightmare Cinema. Mick Garris, the producer of Showtime's Masters of Horror, and I worked on this film, Nightmare Cinema. Chris and I went out there together to the premiere, and then we spent a week in LA after that pitching this Minuteman script to various producers. It was we had great conversations. Everybody was very receptive, but we didn't get anything until I think I'm going to let Chris pick up the story here because Chris, I flew back east and you had one more meeting. Tell us about that meeting.
Well, I actually had two more. And prior to that, we met with some of Larry's people as well. And prior to that, months prior to that, I had met some other well-known producers and things. But when Larry left, I had two more meetings left. And, after doing the whole viewing of his film and everything and running around meeting people, talking to people, speaking of superpowers, I wish my one superpower was I didn't get depleted. After being out pitching and talking and doing all this, I feel depleted, and I've got to go into my shell for a few days and decompress. So I was sitting at the pool the morning had these two meetings lined up. Larry was on the flight heading back, and I was sitting there thinking, what am I doing? You just feel depleted at this point. Just a little exhausted. So I thought I might get 10 minutes with these folks, and I went to the first meeting. I had 2 hours. They leaned in. They loved it. We talked. We had a great conversation. And what I love about it when you pitch this is I love to hear what other people jump on the heels of you and start finishing your thoughts. And whether they're going in the right direction, or the wrong direction, they have an opinion and they love the idea. So they immediately lean in and get engaged. When I left that meeting, I was feeling pretty good. And I went to meet with Jonathan Sanger and MJ. And again, I still humbly thought I might get 10 minutes of meet and greet, very cordial. I was told how, how professional they are and how cordial they actually are. Well, they met and greeted me with a great smile. We went into a conference room. We sat down again, 2.5 hours. I had to cut this one short because I had to leave. I had headed back east. And so prior to leaving, they really tried to make sure I understood that they wanted to be working with us in some way, some facet. So that was really good. It was great. So from there, we've just been kind of moving this thing forward, trying to keep it going. The big thing
Yeah,
is October 14th, right, Larry?
that's right.
Coming
That's
up.
when the book comes out. But the thing was, I was on the flight back home already, and I had a stopover in Salt Lake City. And I get off the flight, and I have all these texts from Chris telling me about this meeting. And to put this in perspective, this is Jonathan Sanger. This is the producer of Elephant Man and Vanilla Sky, and on and on. And so it seemed like we were off to the races at that point.
Mhm.
But I have to tell you, this was early winter 2019. All
Wow.
right. So we know what
Yes,
happened next.
I
And so
remember.
COVID derails it. And then just when things start coming back, we have the writer's strike, the actor's strike, and then
Mhm.
the terrible LA fires. And there's a photo that Chris has taken right off the balcony of what is now his apartment in West Hollywood, where the fires were just a few blocks away. And so all of these things were delaying the film development. So what
Mhm.
I did in that downtime is I wrote the novel. And that's the novel we have coming out in October on October 14 from Arc Manor. And so it's interesting, isn't it, how things that are actually not good things, things that seem to
Right.
really get in the way, they actually turn out to be things that work out, because I don't know
Mhm.
if we'd have a novel. We might have a movie at this point, but we wouldn't
Right.
have the novel coming out on October 14th. So I'm excited about the novel, and pleased at the way things have come out, and the film is still going to happen.
Yes. You know what? Let's just give our listeners where to find this novel, websites, Amazon. Tell us right now. Why wait?
Sure. Best place to find me, Lawrence C. Connolly, is at
Mhm.
lawrenceconnolly.com. And that's Connolly with two O's, two N's, and two L's. I like to recycle stuff. And so lawrenceconnolly.com or lawrenceconnolly.com will get you there, and everything is right there. The social media links, my podcasts, my blog, everything is right there. And people can also go to concom.entertainment.substack.com, and that's where Chris and I have a newsletter that we're putting out every other Thursday, actually
Mhm.
every other Tuesday, about the Minuteman Project. So that's Concom, C-O-N as in Connolly, com as in communication, entertainment.substack.com. And the last one I will tell you about is minutemannovel.com, which has a direct link to the pre-order page at Amazon, and also has a very cool countdown clock there, so you know just exactly when the book is coming out. But both Chris and I are on Facebook and Instagram
Mhm.
and there, but you can find my links to those social media sites right there on my website.
So maybe I missed this, but as far as directing, producing the actual film, are you two going to be doing that directing? Are you going to be standing behind the director? Will you be micromanaging the director? Will you be involved in casting? How much will you be involved in the movie process? Because I've
Right.
seen that personally, where writers want this and the director wants this, and they butt heads. So,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, at the moment I'm on the East Coast, writing the follow-up novel, and Chris is in LA doing all the legwork for that. So Chris, how are things going?
Yeah.
yeah, I think the producing part of it is the main key to take the IP that we've been developing that I created and to move it forward. Now, the beauty that I felt when Larry jumped on, yes, I needed him. And then when you have people jumping on like Jonathan Sanger and MJ, these folks, the beauty is it takes the pressure off me or anyone. You don't have to be the smartest guy. I have my
Mhm.
opinion. I know where the story is going. Larry and I have talked about it. We know what we want to do with the story. We know where it began, even before what we've got coming out. We know where it's going. Um,
Mhm.
so as Larry and I have had these discussions, as long as we stay true to the story, um, I would be glad to let a director or a other people give their insight. Anything we do, I'm certainly hoping it's going to make the whole project even better. So
Mhm.
yes, we can relinquish creative thoughts to others as well.
Well, I mean, Jonathan Singer, who's involved, got a call from Tom Cruise. At least he said this in an interview, asking him to shut down the streets in Times Square, and he was able to do it. So you have a very competent guy who's
Oh yeah.
on board with you. So, when you have this level of confidence, perhaps you can give up some of the control and have some confidence in the leadership.
Absolutely. And I don't understand what they do. They know it better. So I think Larry and I both
Mhm.
know that. Well, Larry knows what he does. I know what I do. So yeah, it takes the whole team, as just like the ensemble and the characters themselves, right, Larry?
Yeah, yeah. The Minutemen story is very much an ensemble piece where every one of the characters has a special skill, a special power that they can use, and they also have special hang-ups, and they're also getting over special traumas. These are very complex characters, as we all are, right? And so
Right.
I think that in order to get a film made, we have to bring together. Well, we don't, but the producers have to bring together all these wonderfully complex and talented characters, and each one relies on the other to do his job to the best of his ability so that the film comes off well. And that is very much what the Minutemen story is about. Characters who are doing the best they can with what they have, and then know that they can rely on the other characters when they go into their downtime mode. Because these Minutemen, as powerful as they are, each one becomes just about as helpless as a baby when the power is spent and has to
Wow.
rely on the others not only to continue the mission, but also to protect them and get them out alive.
As helpless as a baby. That's how I felt at the beginning of this interview. This is the most chaotic interview I've done in 5 years. So thanks for bearing with
Oh,
me.
come
Now,
on.
also, well, it's just the truth. Listen, I'm an honest person, even though I dress up as different characters and I lie a lot, but I'm in character, so it's not a lie. Now, I don't think I've heard so much about trauma, and I don't think I felt so traumatized in the 41 years I've ever lived, since this pandemic, and you're writing about trauma. And in another interview, Lawrence, you mentioned how you take like the dark musings of your mind in your mind and you put them on paper and you write about what's in your mind. So are there pieces of you, or where did you get inspired for all this trauma writing, traumatized characters? Like, where does this come from?
Yeah, everybody has it, don't they? I mean, everybody has hangups, and what makes art drama interesting is that we bring characters that have the interesting hangups to the fore. But Chris has an afterword to the book to the Minuteman book that's coming out, and in that afterward, he talks about work that he did with a former Marine. And along the way, Chris, you could probably tell the story better than I can. You became aware of wounded warriors and so many people who had uh, things in their past that they had to get on with. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you can't go into any war or any part of the military and come out unscathed in any way. I mean, I do know people that would object and say, no, they're healthy, they're fine. And they surely are. But there's others that come back disabled and wounded in ways that you can't even see, whether it's PTSD or not. Working with some of these Marines, doing what I was doing, uh, I realized great people, but wouldn't it be great if we could just make them whole again? And I thought with, when coming up with this project, it was in a good way of giving warriors their life back. There's the science out there. There's all this. I always like to say this story is based on an actual science formula behind it, where it's not like a radioactive spider bites a spider, and I mean, a radioactive spider bites a kid and he's shooting spider webs all of a sudden. This is based on a real formula that helps Daniel Hayes walk again, gives Christian Chase her eyes again, she can see again. So it's a cool story, and the other thing about the characters, they all may suffer from some debilitating issues, but they also have a background of a history of their own skills, things they were able to do, they were accomplished in their own way, and then they come home broken. Every meeting I've ever won and gone into, I've always first and foremost said, uh, understand that another objective here is to create a foundation out of this and having a foundation associated or to work with a foundation. There were a few I called, and there's a few I'd like to get involved with, but I would like if this project it brings revenue in for a foundation, that would be great. It'd be a wonderful thing. I'd like to give back at this point in my life.
Yeah, I like to get back every day. That's why I'm talking to you guys. You're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, so final question. So this will have to be like a 2 minute answer. I'm more on the shorter side. Now, Lawrence, you were discussing a cult film called Blood on a different interview about the addiction to a woman's blood. So I'm someone who subscribes to the belief that all humans get addicted to something, but the key is to choose the right, most fruitful, useful, productive addictions. And I believe that to truly be an expert at anything, you got to be obsessed. So, do you feel that you're addicted to writing, or what are your addictions?
Well,
Both of you, I guess.
what a great question. Absolutely, I think I am. It is something that gets me through, and
Hmm.
it's something that I can't go without. If I go too long without writing, it's not going to be a good day the next day.
Oh, wow.
So we were talking earlier about COVID, and when COVID hit, and we all were concerned about the horror story raging outside our homes. It was the writing that enabled me to be centered and
Hmm.
to be able to work through the panic and work through the concern. And it certainly wasn't always easy to find that time because there was a lot going on in those days. But that was what I think got me through to a large point, to a large extent. And I think I started this very early in life. I grew up during the atomic age, right? And the time when we were convinced during the Cuban Missile Crisis that we were all going to be annihilated. And I was writing and telling stories back then too, channeling the anxiety that was caused by the age and finding a way to deal with it through writing. And if addiction is something that you have to do in order to carry on, then yeah, I'd say you're right. I probably am addicted to writing.
So,
Good thing about it though, there doesn't seem to be a downside about.
exactly, exactly. Chris,
My addiction,
or
uh,
obsession?
obsession. Uh, I don't know. I just keep trying to move forward. I do continue to stay. I've trained all my life, so I still try to stay fit.
Hmm.
I spend maybe 3 or 4 days at the gym, but it's kind of downplayed a little bit. Just an hour and a half or so, and yeah. So I would just say that's about it.
You can tell you look very fit. I used to be a full-time trainer as well. And an hour and a half, sometimes I taught 8 classes or 8 clients a day. So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts? Anything you would just like to tell our audience in maybe 30 seconds or less?
No, this has been great. Thanks so much for having us on and giving us the opportunity to talk about the Minuteman Project and the novel that's coming out. It's called Minutemen Execute and Run. It comes out October 14th. It'll be available at Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's already up for pre-order. And check us out. Check out our newsletter. Check out my website. There's a lot to learn, and very eager for people to read the book. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, the newsletter is fun. They would get a kick out of it. They can see they get an idea where this all started and where we're going with it.
All right. And I guess my closing thought will be it's probably a lot healthier if you have trauma or anxiety to work out like Chris or to write like Lawrence. And I've done both professionally. Or you could do what I did during the pandemic and you can eat what I call keto pizzas, which are melted bowls of cheese because cheese, Chris, you probably definitely know this, has casomorphine, which is a morphine-like substance, and it relaxes the body. I actually would get tingles and I'd watch Tiger King and I'd feel super relaxed eating these bowls of cheese. But guess what? A year later, I did stand up and I had layers of stuff on me. So maybe if you're feeling anxious, guys, floss your teeth, take good care of yourself, work out, write, channel that into a creative, positive addiction. Maybe don't eat keto pizzas, bowls of cheese. And now back to the studio with Mark Torres for more Came from the Radio.